he loses stuff. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
recording.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to a very special episode of Uncanny Treks. Tonight we are talking about Avengers A.I, all 12 issues. I am Bob in Cascadia. That is Matt in the Southland. Matt, are you feeling very artificial tonight? Are you feeling very cybernetic? Are you feeling very computerized?
Bob, I don't know which adjective I would use to describe me. You had me read 12 issues of this after a really great Hickman, well, really two Hickman runs that were running together. This apparently read parallel to those Hickman runs. It's not the same quality, Bob. I'm just gonna go
Not the
out.
same quality. You're
I'm
gonna
gonna
say
I'm
that?
gonna be I'm gonna be I'm gonna be straightforward at the beginning of this. Not the same quality. An interesting concept. I like the idea. I like the concept. But as we delve into this, just keep this in mind that this book is not on the. In my opinion, this book is not on the same level as the other Avengers we've been reading recently.
I think that's fair. I'm a little fonder of it than you, but I don't think I have like excessively rose-colored glasses. And honestly, if we weren't doing the Hickman run, we wouldn't be looking at these comics, right? I did just want us to look at a couple of the other Avengers series going on around the Hickman run. So later we'll look at Avengers World, which is a more direct spinoff of the Hickman run, and later still we might look at the Al Ewing Avengers run that's going on with the Hickman run and in conversation with it. But this is just kind of a nice little side thing that's going on. It's just 12 issues. It got canceled, and we will see when we get to the last couple of issues, it's going to foreshadow some stuff that Hickman will do in the next part of the run. But you're right that there's almost no like real plot connection to it at all.
Yeah, if you're going into this thinking you're going to have some tie-ins to anything that Hickman's doing, there's one specific issue that does really cover some ground that Hickman didn't. But other than that, it's all sort of its own piece and what these characters were doing while the Avengers are away in space.
For sure, for sure. So we've got this 12 issues. They're written by Sam Humphries. I'm pretty fond of him for doing a one-shot that's a Legion of Superheroes versus Bugs Bunny crossover for DC a few years back. That's good stuff. You might like, he has an Uncanny X-Force comic, Matt, which was also coming out around this time in Marvel now. And I really like the Uncanny X-Force comic. I think it's a better comic than this.
Let me pause. Back to recording.
So he has an Uncanny X-Force run that's sort of a sequel to the Rick Remender run and sort of just doing a similar concept in a different way. Came out in Marvel now. I think you'd like that since you like the Remender Uncanny X-Force. And I definitely think Humphrey's Uncanny X-Force is a bit better than his Avengers A.I. for sure.
Okay, yeah, I do love some some X-Force, period. Uncanny X-Force specifically. Now, let's go back to this Legion of Superheroes versus Bugs Bunny thing, Bob. Mm-hmm. What the hell?
They did a whole initiative around that time where it was the Warner Brothers cartoons meets the DC heroes. That's the era of, which we will look at in this podcast at some point, Batman and Elmer Fudd by Tom King.
Yes. Okay, so this was around that time, so there was actually a
Yeah.
crossover, but it was just Bugs Bunny. It wasn't like Marvin the Martian and all those characters.
No. Marvin the Martian had one with the Martian Manhunter.
Oh, of course, yes.
And then I can't remember what the only three I can remember are those Bugs Bunny and the Legion, Martian Manhunter and Marvin the Martian, and then Batman Elmer Fudd. But I think there were a couple more.
I did read the Batman Elmer Fudd when it dropped, and it was mildly entertaining. I think you probably liked it more than I did.
Well, Matt, you did request at some point we maybe do the Silver St. Cloud comics because there's only like 4 of them.
Right.
If you don't count the Kevin Smith ones, which I don't. We're not doing the
Oh
Kevin
no,
Smith
we're never
ones.
doing that. No widening gyre, guys. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry, guys. So at some point, we'll get to Batman Elmer Fudd. And then I also just wanted to say before we dive into this, we've got on art for most of the issues, Andre Lima Arejo. We already saw him once on the Hickman Future Foundation run. He drew one of the later Future Foundation issues that focused on Bentley 23, the young clone of the Wizard. And then we've got, as a fill-in artist on issues 5 and 6, Valerio Schiti, and he's an Italian artist. You've probably seen his art around. He did Inferno to wrap up Hickman's X-Men run. He also did that series, Gods, all capital letters, which I need to revisit. I have to confess I didn't really love when I first read it.
I did read Inferno, yes. I'm familiar with that, with some of the work.
Yeah, and then Matt, I wanted to ask, had you ever read not the movie Age of Ultron, but the comic Age of Ultron? Had you ever read that?
I had not, but don't worry, folks, because this at the very beginning of this book, they give you a pretty good rundown of what happened during the Age of Ultron in the comics, which is different from what happened in the film.
Yeah, yeah.
Very
I've
different.
also I've never read that run either. I'd given up on the Bendis run by that time. Not a big fan of the Bendis Avengers run. I don't think it's awful. It's just not really my style. So yeah, yeah, that's it. So that's why we're doing this. Is it's Marvel now. I also think just it's kind of interestingly a little bit of an orphan comic, right? You sometimes get this when you have big relaunches like Marvel Now or DCU or the New 52, where you have a comic that clearly seems like leftover from the old regime, but they have to brand it for the new regime, right? And I think that's kind of what a little bit what's going on with Avengers AI here is it feels like it's more of a spin-off of Age of Ultron and the Bendis Avengers, but it's coming out in the Hickman era, which is interesting to me.
Yeah, it doesn't. Especially when they start bringing characters from what's from the Hickman run, like just to make these cameos, it's strange. Like
Yeah, it's
it
just
doesn't feel like it jives well. It's yeah.
it's basically just Sunspot and Cannonball, right?
Right. Well, that's Captain America make a short little appearance at some point.
Although, and obviously Cap is in the Hickman run, but in a way, it's also a crossover with Uncanny Avengers. But we'll get there when we get there, I guess.
And see, folks, this is why it gets real complicated after a while because you've got Uncanny Avengers, Adjectiveless Adventures, New Avengers, whatever this is called, Avengers A.I. It's not Avengers A. Yeah,
It is
it is just
Avengers
Avengers A.I., but that's not the name of the
Yeah.
team, right?
It's something like Avengers AI Squad or Avengers Robot Squad.
Robot, yeah,
something,
that's right.
something
Yeah.
like that.
Okay,
yeah.
so you have all these different Avengers teams going at the same time. At least they had something for all the characters to do. That was kind of cool. I have to admit
Yeah.
that.
So to talk about the characters we're going to see in this a little bit, Matt, I assume you broadly know the deal of Vision, the Doombot, and Hank Pym.
Yes, yeah. I mean, everybody knows Vision's an android.
Yeah,
With
yeah.
the-
Created by Ultron, who was created by Hank Pym. So
Yeah.
Hank Pym's like his granddad. Yeah.
Right. This is a Doombot. It doesn't have to. It's not introduced. This is the first introduction of this Doombot, correct?
I think some of these characters maybe showed up at the very end of Age of Ultron in a kind of preview.
Yeah.
But for all intents and purposes, yeah, this is the first appearance of this Doombot.
And then of course Hank Pym is Ant-Man. So good there.
Yeah, yeah. Also Giant Man, also just general kind of genius creator. Yellow Jacket sometimes. He was even the Wasp for a period after the Wasp died.
Yeah, and he as you go through the comic, he reminds us that he was many different things, and we'll have lots of illustrations of this. It's like there's this. They try to do this thing where he has this issue going on inside of him, but it doesn't come across that great. Like it's supposed to be more emotional. Like I guess he's depressed or upset because of
Yeah.
the death of AI. the death.
Well, and it's also just the legacy of Hank Pym, right? Is the infamous wife beater angle from the the late 70s, early 80s, I think.
Yeah,
And
that
so-
shit stuck around with him for a very long time.
Indeed, indeed.
As it should,
As it should, as
Yeah.
it should. Shouldn't raise your hand to your partner. But we're that stuff aside, we've also got some new characters here. So the new characters, besides this particular version of the Doombot, are Monica Chang, who is a Islamic or a Muslim shield agent who has a particular interest in AI and is very opposed to Hank Pym's interpretations of AI. And this is basically her first appearance. And then we have a villainous AI called Demetrius. And then, am I remembering this right, Matt, that Demetrius creates a new, more benevolent AI named Alexis, who appears as a younger black woman?
Correct. Yes.
Yeah. And so this is basically the first appearance of this Doombot, Monica Chang, Alexis, and Demetrius. And that's interesting. And then we have Victor Mancha, who's this other character. Had you ever heard of him at all?
No, he was brand new to me as well. I kept thinking
Okay.
Victor. I kept thinking Victor Von Doom every time I saw his name. Like that's not who they're referring to.
Oh, interesting. He's from the Runaways, which I don't know if you're that familiar with that series. I've honestly only read a couple of issues. I'm not super familiar with the Runaways at all. But Victor Mancha is from the Runaways, and he so if you're familiar with the Runaways, I guess you'll be familiar with him. He may not be in the first series of the Runaways, but I think he's in all the other series. And of these new characters or characters you're unfamiliar with, Victor is basically the only one to keep appearing. As far as I know, Monica, Alexis, and Demetrius haven't reappeared. Victor keeps showing up in the Runaways series. And also, I think this version of the Doombot appears with Victor in later issues of the Runaways after this.
And Victor Bob is somehow related to Vision. Like they're brothers, I think, or
Yeah, I think I don't get the full deal of it. Like in general, the Runaways are the children of supervillains, but I don't know if they were still doing that gimmick when Victor was introduced because he was introduced a little later. But yeah, it seems like because he's an artificial life form, I don't know if he's like Vision created him or his creation has something to do with the Vision or just because they're both, heroic artificial life forms, Vision kind of treats him like a younger brother. I'm not sure the exact nature
like
of
the
the
specifics
relationship.
of it. Yeah, I couldn't remember too if it had something to do with Ultron. Is Ultron his father, maybe?
So Ultron is Vision's father, so he might be Victor's
That okay? That
father.
now it
Yeah.
makes sense. Yes, it's all from Hank Pym AI stuff. So just keep that in mind. Most of these characters somehow spawned from this AI Hank Pym created.
Yeah. Hank Pym is the granddaddy, as
Yes,
it were.
and Hank Pym really cares about this AI and thinks they're humans. So you have to keep that. Their humanity of AI is a big theme in these books.
Yeah. And then one other little fun bit of trivia. I just thought this was weird. Sam Humphries did a run on the Ultimates a couple of years before this. I think I have read it, or at least read part of it. I don't remember it very well. But apparently, Monica Chang appears in the Ultimates. So this is a case where Ultimate Monica Chang predates 616 Monica Chang, which I always think that's interesting.
That is interesting when you have those ultimate characters that take the precedence of the regular universe, the 616 universe. That's cool.
Yeah. It is. Well, Matt, basically we're dealing with one 12-part story here. They basically all have cliffhangers, and they're all called, like, Initiate, which I can't decide if having your entire series be a 12-parter called Initiate, is that a good joke or a bad joke? I don't know.
The whole idea behind it, Bob, is that the AI is telling you the story because they have these like at the beginning they have these like prints and stuff, and it'll say like the initiate part is they're starting the chapter, and then you get to the very end of the book. Here's a little spoiler. It'll say repeat yes or no. It's like it's some kind of shtick. I don't know if I care for it.
It is a stick.
This is where I start. This is where the book kind of gets on my nerves a little bit. It does.
Yeah.
It kind of gets you. You're like, okay, AI. And this was 2013, so I don't know if we even had the understanding of what we see AI as today back then.
Oh, we definitely didn't. And
we didn't.
Maybe we should save that and talk about that a little at the end.
Oh, I
think
agree.
I think it is interesting to bring that up at the end.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and dive into it. Listeners, we just divvied it up into two chunks. It came out in two trades, two 6-issue trades. The first one is called Human After All. It's 6 parts. And this didn't seem like one where we really need to summarize each issue. No. So, Matt, you're just going to hit us with a summary for the first 6. We're going to hit a few points from the first 6 issues. We'll pick a favorite panel each from the first 6 issues, then we'll move into the second trade. Sound good?
That sounds good to me, Bob. So in the first 6 issues, the AI virus Demetrios, created by Hank Pym to destroy Ultron, evolves and begins launching attacks against humanity. And then Vision is sent to the AI world known as the Diamond to confront Demetrios.
Yeah, and I think the Demetrius was created at the end of Age of Ultron to win there, although I'm not sure if like the virus that Pym creates at the end of Avengers A.I. was already called Demetrius.
Oh, it wasn't. I think it called itself that, but the AI that was created keeps repeating itself is the idea to stop Ultron. So as it keeps repeating itself, it's also making new things. And these new things are what you're seeing of these AI creations, Demetrios and all the other ones that they're freaking out about.
Well, to talk about issue 1 of Avengers A.I., Matt, I don't have a super lot to say, but I did want to first flag that a lot of this comic is set in Atlanta and Savannah. I don't know if you noticed that.
It is, but I don't recognize the places. That's what drives me nuts. I wish comics would actually choose real places, but I guess that's illegal. I don't know. Like I
don't think it's illegal.
But it's just not kosher. They don't want like. Is that okay to say?
I think it's okay to say metaphorically, yeah.
Okay, thank you. That's sometimes I say that I'm like, is that like one of the things I shouldn't be saying anymore? Okay.
No, no. As far as I've not heard of anybody getting canceled for saying
Okay,
for
good,
doing that.
good.
So yeah, speaking of something that may or may not be kosher, we open with a guy reading to his presumably his dad in the hospital, but he's reading Cormac McCarthy's Blood Meridian, maybe the bloodiest, most violent book ever written, which is just hilarious to me to read that to your old man in the hospital.
Yeah, that's a weird choice.
Indeed,
What I like
indeed.
about these issues, Bob, especially in the beginning, is there's a lot of really great imagery of Vision, where he almost comes off as Superman. Like
Yeah, yeah.
you've got this giant on page 12.
12.
You've got a giant picture of like the sun and like Vision or Star and Vision's just sitting there like thinking in it, and just the way Vision's drawn with tentacles and the way he changes constantly. It's so different from what I remember in the films, where he really just phases through stuff all the time.
Yeah,
I
yeah. You have
forget
this
he's
image of him as like a fixed robot body, but
right.
in these issues, he's always like reconstructing his body in different ways.
Constantly. I mean, even on like page 20, he drops into these tiny nanobite things that like go and take over. So his body is like a mass of nanobites. He can be anything he wants to be. And that's something I think I always forget about, because you didn't see that as much in the films. And that's sort of like most people, to me, that's most people's real like clear introduction or understanding to Vision, or the Vision.
Yeah, I don't know when they started doing that with Vision, because maybe I'm wrong. I've not read that much older Vision stuff, but I kind of associate like the Vision from like the 70s, 80s, and 90s with just being a kind of stuck robot body.
Yes.
Right? And if you think about that Avengers, was it a Sega game we played as
Right,
kids?
and he just shoots beams from his head. I mean, that was really all he did, and he phased through stuff. Which I mean, I guess that's. I guess as technology has advanced, they've said, "Oh yeah, maybe we should make him do cooler stuff." It's more
Yeah,
because
yeah.
shooting laser beams from your head is not really that creative anymore. I mean,
And I think you're exactly right to compare it to Superman. And I would say that Andre Araujo's art somewhat reminds me of Frank Quitely's on All-Star Superman, just on like the kind of like slightly cartoonish, slightly grotesque nature of it. And especially on like page 12 in issue 1, where the Vision is like just orbiting the sun and meditating, it really reminded me of All-Star Superman.
it really does. And throughout this entire book, Bob, I never worry about Vision because I don't think anything's going to happen to him, which is also what the same idea with Superman. I don't feel like he's ever really in any kind of danger.
Yeah. Our robot messiah will always be safe, Matt.
I kind of always felt that way about Red Tornado and Young Justice. Maybe I just think robots are indestructible.
Indeed. Well, I wish something bad would happen to Red Tornado, but it never does. One other thing I wanted to flag from this first issue, and this is actually my favorite panel of the first 6 issues, is on page 10 and 11, we have 2 consecutive pages of Chang and Pym have been arguing about AI. Basically, Pym thinks AI is people. Chang thinks it's a threat. And Chang socks Pym, which was very satisfying, especially in the current moment. It's very satisfying. And then the next page, she's telling Captain America that she's a, quote, hardcore motherfucker. And, on the way, that's arguably like a little cheesy, right? Of like, okay, the new character's got to mouth off to Captain America and establish their bona fides. But honestly, I thought it worked here. I buy Chang as the hardcore motherfucker who's telling off Cap and punching Ant-Man in the face like he deserves.
Yeah. Well, Bob, as we move into issue 2,
I just wanted to flag that cover on issue 2, Matt. That's a dope cover, man. You've got Ultron as like a grave angel. I love that.
it is really awesome, and you've got the Iron Man in the classic, kneeling pose as though he's fallen from the sky. But this Iron Man is not Iron Man. It is Demetrios.
Yeah, it's Demetrius in some Tony Stark armor.
But it's how they sold the comic. You're like, Iron Man's in this book. What?
This really was the era where if you saw you saw Iron Man armor, you had no idea, is it Demetrius? Is it actually Tony Stark? Is it just Tony Stark Skyping in like in the Hickman run?
Exactly. I mean, Iron Man was everywhere, Bob. And they knew what they were doing with this. They knew what they were doing, being clever. They're saying, "Oh, Iron Man's in this book, and he's a bad guy." Yeah, come on now.
this really does start a theme in this issue too. It's gonna sort of drop off in the second half, but it's pretty common in the front half of this theme of like the robots rising up against tyranny, right?
Right.
And so Demetrius keeps calling Tony Stark the tyrant Tony Stark, which makes me laugh. Or you have like the Kilgore Sentinel, who's the villainous AI that the AI squad is trying to control. He tosses the Doombot's severed head all the way to the Jefferson Monument, and then there you've got the Doombot smack talking the Jefferson statue, right?
As just a head.
Yeah, as just a head.
So
Just
once
a
again,
severed
guys,
head.
once again, the stakes are not that high with this because these robots just they stay alive. They don't.
Yeah, which is really going to be an important issue for issue 4. Which, as we go ahead and go to issue 4, we do have a nice little argument between the Doombot and Monica Chang. This is the issue where we find out that Monica Chang is a Muslim, and so she's having her Islamic perspective. Doombot is having his everyone is inferior to Doombot perspective. It was an interesting debate. But then, Matt, to your point, we see Victor Mancha apparently die. Did you believe he was dead, or were you already on that tip of the robots aren't going to die in this?
He's not dead. Like I knew he wasn't dead, and they made it out to be like I was supposed to be sad. That's the thing. This book did not really give me time or elicit the emotions as other books would of a dying Avenger. Because number one, I really don't know the character. Number two, I'm like, it is an AI. Like it's Vision's brother, so I know Vision's super powerful and can always come back from that. So this guy's going to be the same way, and he is. That's exactly what happens. Don't let him fool you.
Yeah. I do agree with you, Matt, that Victor dying or appearing to die doesn't really hit for me either. I guess I would slightly defend the book and say that Runaways was a super popular title at this point in time, and we were just kind of bad timing, missed it, right? We were maybe a little too old, right? And so we never read it. But
yeah,
I
that's a
think
good point.
I think a lot of the readers would not need Victor introduced to them. Now that said, I'm not sure how much, even if you were a big Victor fan, I don't know how much this stuff, if his death and then his resurrection and later issues would hit for you. I couldn't say.
Listeners, if you're a big Victor fan, holler out at us because that's something that's rare. Both being a Victor fan and shouting out at us. Thank you.
Yeah. Both are rare. Both are rare. So moving on to issue number 5, we do have a little bit of funny social commentary in these issues. We'll look at a couple of other things, but we have the crowd both chanting in issue 5, "Give us our money," and "We have rights," and they're protesting the spread of AI, which as will turn out in the present day, very reasonable. I think very reasonable protest. But we start to get visions of the future, which is going to inflect the back half of this book. And so we have Alexis like seeing herself as Captain America in the future. That's kind of interesting. And then we also have one of my favorite little bits of business is Monica Chang wants to annoy Hank Pym, and so she manipulates the Doombot into blasting open Pym's lab to get him to talk after Victor's death. That amused me.
That is pretty cool. And let me just say, in this issue is where I really started to lose some of my understanding of how the AI works. They do work on this as you go further into the book, but the idea of the diamond, which is the AI world that they have to travel to and everything, and then all these different AI characters, like it's hard for me to understand like what plane of existence they live on. Until they start to show us that this is eventually just sort of a simulation type experience. It's more like a 3 virtual reality type area they're in. I understand you have to have a visual for a comic, but in my brain, I just feel like there's something they could do that's more creative than just recreating the Matrix.
Yeah, this is the part of the comic too where you always do have stuff that's taking place in the real world and later in the future too. But this really gets to be where like about a third of the action is in the simulation. And like you, I'm generally not a fan of simulation stories in general, and I don't think this is super effective. Like, they do a good job of getting a visual language for the simulation, but it doesn't just overcome my bias against the setting, if that makes sense.
Right. And saying that, though, when we get to, we'll talk about it in a minute, but as we get to the end of the comic, there is some interesting stuff they do with the simulation, but the AI component to it is just off for me because being AI and being in a simulation type environment are two very different things.
Yeah, it is. I mean, they're obviously related, but on the other hand, yeah, there is a bit of like you're just kind of sprawling all over the place with the AI issue, the simulation issue, the future issue. It is kind of sprawling all over the place, science fictionally speaking. We do get a new character in issue 5 who's a part of the simulation. He's like a noir guy in a fedora. His name is Gibson. I assume that's supposed to be a nod to William Gibson, who wrote Neuromancer, which is, all about virtual reality of a sort, although really more cyberspace than virtual reality. And then, Matt, a related thing, and this is something that will periodically come up in the rest of the comic, we find out that Hank Pym is a gamer in issue number 5. I lost a lot of respect for Hank Pym when I found that out. What did that do for your opinion of it?
I don't have a problem with it being a gamer at all, Bob. That's cool. I like it. He created a game that can continue. It's infinite. It just keeps going on, which I'm like, that's kind of neat. I like that. I like that idea.
You know how we talked a couple of episodes ago about like the Black Swan idea being like really popular in like certain kind of like popular science, popular economics discourse?
Yes.
Yeah, this concept of the infinite game was something that if you were listening to TED Talks in like 2013, people were talking about this idea a lot. Like Ezra Klein, that loser, he likes to talk about this idea sometimes.
Okay. Well, I don't know much about that, but also I wasn't around. I mean, I wasn't.
No, you shouldn't listen
at that time.
This is not a criticism. You shouldn't listen to TED Talks. They make you dumber.
Okay. Well, I never really do, so it makes me, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay. But I had no idea that was even a thing people were discussing back then. The infinite game. That sounds like usually in 2013. I think I was trying to survive. I don't remember.
a lot of times they conceptualize it as like, oh, you want to think of the process of our institutions or the process of our political system as an infinite game where you're like, you're not playing to win, you're playing to keep going, you're always handing off. That a lot of times people use it like that.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess that makes sense why they put that in here because Hank uses this game to kind of relax, or not relax, but forget about some of his problems that he has going on.
Yeah, let me just say that although I don't really respect gaming or gamers, if Hank Pym needs to game to keep him from beating Janet Van Dyne, then by all means, he should game.
There you go. That's a good point, Bob. Game all you want. Now, what if he's beating a digital... what if he's beating a digital Van Dyne in a video game? How do you feel about that?
I think there's really interesting ethical questions about if you're doing that sort of action in a simulation, is that like an outlet so that you would not engage in those in life? Or is it going to just encourage you to also do those things in life? I think the answer is probably more the latter, but that's an empirical question that I'm not equipped to answer. So I would defer to people who are equipped to answer it.
That's a good question, Bob. Yeah, I kind of wonder how that fits with Hank Pym. I mean, now I kind of wonder, this is horrible, Bob, but is there a video game where you can play as Hank Pym and unintentionally smack around the Wasp?
I would not be surprised if one of the Ultimate Alliance games got there somehow. I don't know that they did, but I wouldn't be surprised.
That's a bit dark, but yeah, you get the idea.
It's pretty horrible.
That's pretty horrible, yeah. But
no, it's a real shame that this character is always going to be haunted by that really deeply regrettable story choice.
Yes, very much so.
Yeah. Well, Matt, to keep moving to issue 6, speaking of something that's kind of unsettling, at least to me, what do you think about a Vision in a bow tie and a sweater?
It's kind of creepy. But we saw Vision in so many different outfits in WandaVision, so I'm kind of like, it's not that unusual. But at the same time, in 2013, that probably would have been creepy.
At some point, Matt, we do need to read Tom King's Vision series, just 12 issues. Very good, much better than this. I want to see what you think of that.
I read the first 2 or 3 issues. Is that the one where he's like a family?
Yep.
Yes. Okay. I've read the first 2 or 3. I enjoyed it. I just didn't keep up with it after a while.
Yeah. Well, Matt, what was your favorite panel? Or actually, before we get to that, did you like a Vision's kitten test for Demetrius to see if Demetrius could bring himself to kill this poor kitten?
Once again, folks, this is when I knew there were no stakes because no one's going to show a kitten being killed in a comic book. Give me a break. Come on.
Yeah, on the
Vision.
one hand, as a plot element, it was kind of lame. I did think the idea of can the evil AI bring itself to kill the cute kitten? I
Yeah,
did think it was a pretty funny joke. I do
it's
have to
funny.
give Sam Humphries that.
And
So
and I will
go
say,
ahead.
Bob, my favorite panel does kind of spark from that because I do like the entire battle scene between Vision and Demetrius because each panel they change the way they look in the AI to some other. Sometimes some are video game Easter egg type things. Some are just like general warriors or battle or people who would battle it out. But I just like the way that they are constantly changing and trying to up the ante. We've seen this before though in Sandman. I don't know if you
Oh,
remember where
interesting.
Sandman battled. I don't remember. It was one of the gods, but they have to do this thing
Oh,
where they.
I don't know if I ever got that far in it.
Oh,
You're talking about the Neil Gaiman
the
Sandman.
Neil Gaiman, yes,
Yeah, I only read I think volume 1 and volume 4 of Neil Gaiman's Sandman. I
yeah.
never got very far into it.
At one point, they just keep battling it out, like who can be the larger thing, and they just keep going and going and going. And this title, it brought back those memories, but at the same time, it also brought in some of the video game elements with there's like a health bar,
Yeah, yeah.
which I thought was kind of neat. I mean, it wasn't original though because I've seen this not just with the Sandman stuff, but we've seen this type of thing before where the characters are in a video game or fighting. We even saw it in X-Men '97 not too long ago.
For sure. And one of the things I do want to say is I think that sequence is in issue 5 and 6, which are, like we said, are Valerio Schiti. But both Schiti and Andre Arejo are doing a lot of very interesting things on art. I think ultimately it doesn't like land for us, like we don't buy into the gimmick enough, but they are doing some really interesting work across these 12 issues.
They are, and I will say I enjoy the art. I have no issues with the artwork at all. I enjoyed that thoroughly. It's primarily just the writing compared to what we're seeing with Hickman at the same time is not the same level, but it's also the story is a bit. You have to look at the characters he's working with, and then just the story itself is very
Yeah.
tech
Very
heavy,
very,
very tech
very
heavy
few
science
people.
fiction. Yeah, you have
Very
to
few people would pick Hank Pym or Vision as their favorite Avengers.
correct, and you have to be in of a certain. You have to really like the sci-fi genre to enjoy this level of AI discussion or AI interaction that they have going on here. It's not for somebody that you can't. To me, it would be hard to pick up this book and not have a very clear understanding of AI simulated worlds and how those can connect.
Nice, nice. Well, Matt, shall we move into the second volume, which is issues 7 through 12, and the trade came out under the title 12,000 AD?
Yeah, this is where it gets complicated, folks, because there's some stuff that goes on. Like let me just read you what I put as a summary. And Bob, if you need to add to this, please let me know. The Avengers A.I. joined forces with the Uncanny Avengers to combat Demetrios' threat, where they meet the A.I. Avengers from the future, the Avengers Empire.
Yeah, no, I think you nailed it, Matt. I
Okay.
think you nailed it.
Okay.
And I mean, this is clearly where the book, at least commercially, is floundering a little bit, right? So we start to have a lot of crossovers. So
Yeah.
issue 7 is an Inhumanity tie-in, which we saw the inciting incident for Inhumanity in Infinity, right, where Black Bolt destroys the Citadel of the Inhumans and releases the mist on Earth, which cause a lot of people to turn inhuman. And so yeah, this is like an aftermath to Infinity, but it's also I believe a tie-in to when Mark Waid was writing Daredevil. Like he was writing a much more kind of like optimistic, brightly colored Daredevil with people like Chris Samnee doing the art. And I don't know if you remember that era of Daredevil, but it's interesting that this is both a crossover tie-in and a crossover with Mark Waid's Daredevil.
Yeah, and they make sure to highlight that Daredevil will be in this issue. So when you were going back to talking about the sales, I'm wondering if that was part of it. It's like we need to get some people that are more recognizable in this book.
Yeah, for sure. And then we get an introduction of another character who's a longtime Avengers character in this issue, Jocasta. Do you remember or know Jocasta at all?
That's Ultron's wife, correct?
Who later goes, I think she's Ultron's wife, but I think Ultron maybe creates her to be his wife, or maybe Pym creates her, I'm not sure. And I think she becomes heroic, and she's on the Avengers for a time in the 70s. I don't know if you remember, but I had a old 70s Avengers comic when we were kids, and Jocasta was one of the Avengers.
Okay. Oh, all right. I know I had seen this character before. She's not in the films for one thing, I don't believe, unless I'm
They
completely
might have made some small reference, but it would have been pretty small
right.
if they did make reference.
Her look, though, I recognize the look, I guess, from that comic you had, but also she reminds me of the AI robot lady from Superman 3.
Oh, interesting. That's the one. That's the one I don't think I've ever actually seen, but that's very interesting that she seems familiar
It
to
very
that.
much reminds me of that, yes. And I will say that the art here, how do you feel about the way that Daredevil's costume and Medusa, is it weird? Like, they're all very paunchy.
I gotta say, so my laptop is actually in the shop,
Uh,
and my files for this series are on that
oh, okay, no
laptop, so
problem.
I can't look at it.
Okay, no problem.
Unfortunately.
I just want to point that out to the listeners, guys. Like, it's odd. Like, I've never seen that look before. I don't know what they were going for, but I usually don't criticize art as much. But that is one thing I will point out. Daredevil and Medusa don't look right to me, but it's all good.
And this is something they develop a couple more issues, but since we're on the issue of Jocasta, I'll go ahead and bring it up. They basically have the gimmick for her in these later issues of she becomes Jocasta the robot hunter, which I think is a reference to a property called Magnus the robot fighter. Have you ever heard of that, Matt? I think there maybe was a video game like when we were in middle school that involved Magnus the robot fighter.
I've never heard of that, Bob. This is like the second week in a row you told me about some sort of like robot thing I don't remember from
Okay,
the
I don't
80s
I
and
don't
90s.
Yeah, I don't know anything about Magnus Robot Fighter, but I assume that's what they're trying to give Jocasta that gimmick. It wasn't a Marvel thing. I think it was like the same company that did like Turok comics. I think did Magnus Robot Fighter comics.
Okay, yeah, I could see that. Yeah, and for some reason oh, you know what, Bob? Jocasta reminds me of Stilette,
Stilettes remind me.
or Steele's daughter.
Oh, yeah.
That's the look. That's what
Natasha
it is.
Irons.
Natasha
Yeah.
Irons. Yes,
Yeah.
she's got that same look that I guess it's just the hair with the metal hair. It's interesting.
Yeah, the metal hair and the kind of like feminized steel look of the Although obviously, Natasha's just in a suit, whereas Jocasta is an android. But yeah, I see what you're saying. I definitely see what you're saying. I guess to keep going a little bit, we're in issue number 8 now, and one of the gimmicks that I don't find like super funny, and maybe I would if I was a big Runaway fan, but is Victor Mancha is constantly coming up with new code names for himself that are very much like what a 15-year-old would come up with as their
like,
code name.
Cool Sex
And-
Falcon.
Yeah, his proposal for this issue was Cool Sex Falcon, which I was just like, come on, man. Sam Wilson is already the Cool Sex Falcon. You can't take that from
Yeah,
him.
you can't take that away. I mean, when he's not Captain America.
Yeah. So, Matt, in 8, we kind of start doing the Uncanny Avengers crossover. Did you remember that period when Rogue was on the Avengers?
I did not. When I saw Rogue, I kept in my brain, for some reason, it read it as like Rogue AI. And I'm like, who is this character? I'm like, oh, wait, that's the Rogue from X-Men. And then once again, I'm going to point this out again. The art here, the way Rogue is drawn is kind of, it just doesn't look like she usually does.
I think you might just not like the costume she had on.
She had on like
Avengers.
green weird like thing
With
she
the
had
hood,
from the
yeah.
It's
With the
it's
hood,
not
yeah.
very not the Rogue I'm used to seeing, but
Yeah,
and
I
also
can't-
her dialogue too. It's not it's poorly written. It's like trying to imitate what good writers do with Rogue's voice.
Burn.
I'm sorry. It's rough.
So you don't remember the Uncanny Avengers series?
I remember the name. I don't remember much about that. You had Wolverine on it, right? Or am I
Yes,
wrong? Yeah.
you did. So Uncanny Avengers is the sequel series to Uncanny X-Force, and it's also the sequel series to Avengers versus X-Men. And so they have a joint team of Avengers and X-Men. So I think the 3 main X-Men on it are Rogue, Wolverine, and Havoc. And then you have like Captain America, Thor, a couple of other Avengers characters on it. And that was the other big title of Marvel now. So Uncanny Avengers is coming out at the same time as Avengers A.I. and at the same time as Hickman Avengers. And I've got to say that I like Rick Remender's writing Uncanny Avengers like he wrote Uncanny X-Force. And so in a sense, that's more of the actual sequel to Uncanny X-Force than Sam Humphries' Uncanny X-Force that I mentioned earlier. But I would just say I sort of hate Uncanny Avengers, to be honest. In a way, I'd be interested in sometime in the distant future in podcasting with you on it to see what you think of it, because I hate it. But
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'd be willing to give it a shot.
yeah, it's a weird series though. It's an interesting series, and just an example. You know, this is an example of like the total glut of Avengers comics we're having in Marvel now, right? They're de-emphasizing X-Men and Spider-Man because they don't have the movie rights to them.
Right. There's like Avengers. I mean, there must have been Avengers all over the comic book shelves around this time.
There totally were. There totally were. And then not only is issue 8 and issue 9 and 10 a little bit of an Uncanny Avengers crossover because Rogue and Captain America are kind of doing the Uncanny Avengers part, but then these much smaller cameos of Cannonball and Sunspot that we already mentioned are a bit like your Hickman Avengers crossover.
Right. And Bob, I'm slightly lost at when this comes up, but it is in one of these issues where we do revisit the whole idea of the Terrigen Mist and Attila being destroyed over New York City.
Adelon.
Adelon, I say Attila.
Yeah.
Adelon getting destroyed over New York City. And that becomes a plot point, and it's the only real thing that ties into Hickman's run is what I've been reading. And I think that I just want to point that out to listeners that if you're looking for a tie-in, and I'm not even sure what issue it is. I swear, I've gone back and looked, but I can't. They show the whole idea of the Terrigen Mist and everything, and it takes a lot of the it creates some chaos, especially amongst the life, what are they called, life form, the real
life model decoys.
life model decoys. There we go. Yeah, the life model decoys. It affects them in some way too.
Well, and to clarify, if listeners don't know, the life model decoys are the androids that impersonate people that S.H.I.E.L.D. have.
And they're the only things that can actually carry an AI because a human, you can't really implant an AI in a human brain, at least not yet. So.
And also, just to clarify for the listeners and for you, like this, where we're at now with Infinity, it's taking place a little bit after where we left off in the Hickman run, right? Because we just ended Infinity. But this is going to wrap up sooner than the next Hickman comics we would read. So if you're looking at it on the timeline, I mean, if if we're not going to go like issue by issue, right? This would be the best way to read it, is to read these and to read the next set of 2 Hickman trades that we'll talk about in a couple of weeks. Does that make sense?
It does make sense, yeah. But do keep that in mind, folks. You're not going to see a ton of stuff that's influenced by the Hickman run.
Yeah. I do want to say that it is very hilarious to me, and this is getting up to issue number 9, that we have the reveal that an app to find cheap gas is the main villain in this Uncanny Avengers crossover. I got to give it to Sam Humphries for that. Like I said, not all the jokes and the gimmicks in this series have been landing for us, but I think that's a pretty good gimmick.
But do you like the visualization of the app in the diamond, Bob, or in the AI?
I think it's one of the better things in the diamond.
It's like a giant red baby thing, and it just keeps sucking. Yeah. It just keeps asking for your zip code.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's what AI is, Matt. So I mean, maybe we could go ahead and bring this up here. I think one of the problems this comic has, and especially when I read it the prior 2 times, I read it as it was coming out, and then I read it a few years ago when I reread the Hickman run. I read this too to just be a completionist, and LLMs weren't a thing yet. And now that LLMs are a thing and AI hype is everywhere, to read this, it is a little cringy. I mean, obviously, Humphries predicts where a lot of the discourse would go. He doesn't predict where a lot of the technology would go, but he does exactly predict that AI is just a scam to get your zip code.
That's the truth. It wants your information. And that,
yeah.
And if you're out there having psychoanalysis with AI, I'm sorry, folks. Someone has that record somewhere.
Yeah.
Quit giving your secrets to AI.
They're weaponizing your inner life against you.
And if they haven't done it, you obviously aren't that interesting enough for them to worry about you, which is good. I mean, I hope I would fill in that category. I'd prefer that.
Well, Matt, shall we go ahead and jump ahead to issue number 11 as we kind of wind down the climax here?
Right. Let's take a look at issue number 11, Bob. It's got 11 and 12 left.
Yeah. So, like, setting up on like page 6, right? We have this thing where we have the Avengers Empire, which, as you called it, is the AI Avengers of the future, right?
Right.
And they're fighting the Machine Imperium, led by Demetrios, still in his Tony Stark Iron Man armor. And this is going to make it for an interesting reflection when we get to Hickman's Avengers Volume 6, Infinite Avengers, where we're going to see a similar vibe of the future. It's not exactly the same, but that is one of the reasons I wanted to look at this, is that both this and the Hickman Avengers do like far future Avengers in an interesting way. So I just wanted to flag that.
They do, and they're very different. What I do like about this particular issue in 11, it's the last page, but you've got an entire splash of what the AI Avengers look like. And Alexis is Captain America. She has become this Captain.
Yeah.
You've got Wolverine. It looks like there's a Thanos, a Carnage, a Spider-Man with like tiny MODOK Spider-Man head people. You've got
I missed that.
several
Yeah.
visions. Hawkeye is a robot that rides like a robotic horse.
I missed that.
You've
too.
got Jocasta has what looks like her. It looks like Jocasta's had a family because there's a whole group of them. There's little tiny Iron Man robots that I think we've seen before, in previous visits to the Diamond. But they got very creative with the characters.
They did. Another one. They've got what seems to be a version of Ares,
Yes.
the Greek god of war, who's a Dark Avenger. Like right before this, I think.
Right. Yeah, so it's really cool to see them, in this setup and how they would look as, AI counterparts in the year 2500, no, 25,000. What are we looking at? What year?
The title is
12,000. Excuse me,
Yeah.
12,000 and 12,000 AD. So
Well, and another thing I wanted to note about the future is with Alexis as Captain America and then like Vision alongside her, and then you've got Demetrius as the villain in the Iron Man armor, it does actually give it a vibe of like Civil War in the distant future. It's Cap versus Iron Man. And I thought that was pretty clever. I got to give that to Humphries.
it really does. And my favorite panel is in this issue, Bob, and it's right before that splash page I mentioned. You have Alexis. She's like kissing the Captain America hologram like on the mouth. Like it's like a past representation of Captain America. Like she loved him. It's just it's weird.
Yeah.
Because it's an
It's
AI
wild.
making out with a hologram of a real person from
Although I think the
thousands of
implication,
years ago.
right, is that she and Cap do have a romantic relationship. I think is the
At some
implication.
point possibly, yeah. But I don't. Do we ever go back to these characters? Probably not. I don't think you said we didn't go back to Alexis, do we?
No, Alexis and Monica Chang, I don't think really appear after this. Like we said, Victor will go back to Runaways, and you'll see the Doombot with Victor and Runaways apparently.
Okay.
And speaking of Victor, Matt, so we've got you have your Avengers Trinity, right, which is Cap and Iron Man and Thor, and who's our Thor? Well, Victor is our Thor because he's wielding Mjolnir, which I have to say slightly annoys me. Just because that is something that you see, that's always a way to get a character over is like show them in the future they're wielding Mjolnir.
Right.
But maybe I would feel a little more warmly to it if I'd read Runaways. I don't know. But I guess I do have to give Humphries credit. It's not actually the Prime Mjolnir. It's not 616 Mjolnir. It's apparently the Ultimate Mjolnir.
It is. Yeah. It's like a blade almost.
Yeah, yeah.
It's got a blade on one side, a hammer on the other.
So that's kind of fun. That's kind of fun. I'm glad you liked that splash page of the Avengers Empire. That was going to be my guess for what your favorite page in this trade was.
Yeah. And I feel bad though, listeners, if you've read Runaways and you think that's something we may need to look into if we would actually care about this Victor character a little more, let us know. 'Cause I'd
I'm
like
willing
know.
to I'm willing to say we should look at Runaways, but that is so far away, in plans. Like that's years and years away. If we're still doing
I
this
just
thing.
feel like this character was highlighted as like some giant piece of this story, this 12 issue run, and I have absolutely no connection to him at all.
Yeah. Well, Matt, to wrap up with issue 12, I did want to say I've criticized the simulation stuff that they do in the Diamond a fair amount, and I do think I'm not down with a lot of it, but I do have to admit that the visual of Hank Pym getting his old Giant Man costume, that was a cool visual in the simulation.
Yeah, you get some history lessons with Hank Pym throughout this story because I keep forgetting that he has had so many incarnations over the years.
Yeah. And then, Matt, my guess for what would have been your favorite panel besides the splash page of the Avengers was we see Victor Mancha and the Doombot go full Miami Vice inside the simulation. I thought that might be your favorite panel.
It is really cool. Honestly, I didn't even catch that. That's the thing with the art, folks. Like when they're in this AI, everything's constantly in flux, like changing. So, like I mentioned that fight earlier that I like, them constantly changing like into different types of fighters. Well, here you've got them, Doombot's got on a Miami Vice outfit with a RPG, and Victor's got two SMGs, fire and dual SMGs at Demetrius. So come on, I mean, it's pretty cool to look at. Yeah.
No, that's crazy. That's crazy.
Here's another interesting thing, Bob, that just popped in my head. There's actually a video game that just dropped in the last year or two called Marvel Rivals. And Marvel Rivals is a first-person shooter game where you play there's just a whole list of Marvel characters.
A first-person shooter game?
Yes, Bob. It's crazy. But it works. It's really cool. It's fun.
I think I'd heard of Marvel Rivals. I didn't know it was a first-person shooter. That's crazy.
Yes. So, and to me, when I'm looking at the picture of those two, I would kill for a Doombot to play in that game. It's like I would for a Miami Vice Doombot. The thing with the game, the art style though in the game is very different than what we're used to.
Okay.
That's what's interesting. So if you do look at any of the images from it, it's got an anime inspired style that I'm okay. It's not too bad because you know how we grew up on the Western cartoons, and that's the problem. Like that is what it boils down to.
We both have very
yes
animation palettes.
I mean, it's not that we don't like anime; it's just that we have this like love of Western animation.
Matt, I will say that I don't.
Bob doesn't. I'm okay with it. I've watched some stuff. I haven't watched like. I'm not going to watch like 300 episodes of something, but I mean, I've watched some stuff here and there that's shorter, and I'm okay with it. But
yeah, like I'm not ridiculous. I know that my love for American animation and comics is ridiculous and as childish as anime.
Right.
I still don't. That doesn't make me like it though.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not against it. But see, like I'm saying with this game, it's enough where it doesn't turn me away from the game and the what's going on in it, the story. So it's fun. I just want to point that out. That it's almost like we have this now.
Yeah. You can go into the diamond simulation, Matt.
Maybe that's what it is, Bob. Maybe that's what's been created. I need to get in there.
It really just wants your zip code, dog.
Yeah, because you do have to sign up for an account. Damn you, Bob. Damn you.
Well, Matt, I did want to just frame as we're winding down. My favorite panel from the back half of the series, from the second trade, was in issue 12, and it's on page 17. It's very metal, very science fiction, but very metal, where Demetrius, as Iron Man, is holding Mjolnir, and he's riding Galactus's corpse, and he's coming for Hank Pym, and he's yelling, "Can you hear me, Creator?" Also, he's implicitly coming at God, right? Can you hear me, Creator? I'm coming to judge you. I thought that was pretty metal.
Yeah, they decapitate the dead Galactus, and he rides his head into the creation. So it's pretty hardcore, guys. I have to admit, that's a really cool panel.
Yeah, and I did like the idea that they propose on the next page that the Avengers Empire is a merger of human, machine, mutant, god, Kree, Inhuman, and Skrull. I thought that was a kind of cool idea.
It is. Bob, when we get to the last panel, am I supposed to think something's happened here? Like, is Ultron back in the form of a
I was just raging
thing?
at the final line that innovation is the ultimate weapon. I hate that line. It's a very 2013 Silicon Valley piece of speak, right? Although in a way weirdly prophetic with how hard Silicon Valley has turned into manufacturing arms for the military-industrial complex. But that's neither here nor there.
Well, don't forget, Bob, in the corner of the panel there, we've got Avengers A.I. 1.0 run again. Y/N. See? So do you want to do it again?
Yeah. I think 3 times is enough in one life. Honestly, twice would have been enough, but I wanted to do an episode about it for the Hickman run, so I did it thrice.
But Bob has chosen yes on 2 different occasions. Good job, Bob. I have chosen N.
You've chosen N. Well, Matt, if it wasn't for you, I would have chosen N the second time.
There you go.
I only went back into the simulation to save you, Matt.
Well, I appreciate that, Bob. I appreciate it.
Well, Matt, any final thoughts about old Avengers AI?
I mean, not really. I would love to see this idea maybe revisited with what we know now with AI, with the more recent AI stuff that's been dropped, just to see how they would present it. And then
Yeah,
I kind of wonder if we.
where we realize that AI is not actually AI. It's just a very advanced autocorrect.
Yeah, very friendly autocorrect that makes you feel good inside, but it's
Yeah,
artificial.
it's an autocorrect that really wants to blow you.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. But it can't because it's a robot.
Or
It can't.
can it? Dun, dun,
It can't yet.
Jesus.
Wait for it. All right. Anyway, so I just think that and I also think if they could get a little bit of star power in the issue, they needed somebody that was bigger than Hank Pym. I think
I
that
do
would.
like, you know, this is revealing my biases, but I do like the idea of an Avenger squad that is dedicated to hunting down and exterminating robots.
Oh, okay. So you, so you like the Terminator?
Well, the anti-Terminator in its
Oh, yeah.
way, right? Because isn't the Terminator hunting the human resistance?
Yeah, but this is the opposite too. So yeah,
So
you're right, yeah.
this squad, you know, tries to terminate the Terminator, as it were.
Do they go back in time, Bob, to do this?
I would prefer no, but if that's what gets you on board, sure, they can go back in time.
Jonathan Hickman, we want to see this. All right, Bob, where would you rank this in our rankings?
I want to stress that I think this series is pretty fun. It's very mid, but I think it's fun, and I especially like the kind of epic future slugfest we get in the last two issues. And I like the stuff with the Doombots is good. Monica Chang is an interesting character. I wish somebody would find something for her in the present Marvel. So I think this is fine. That said, it's not going to go very high up in my mind, listeners. We've got a 22 item list right now. The top is the John Hickman Fantastic Four. The bottom three slots are the Gotham Knights series from the early aughts. Honestly, I think I would be comfortable. I definitely would want this below Infinity Gauntlet. Infinity
For
Gauntlet
sure.
is much better than this and much more historically important.
Yes.
I feel like that's at number 17, Infinity Gauntlet. Number 18 is Superman versus Fantastic Four. I think that's better done and more concentrated than this.
The word
And
more,
then-
when you say more concentrated, that was what I was going for as a single issue, or wasn't a single issue, yeah. Telling
Yeah.
the story as opposed to 12 issues of just, I agree.
And in fairness, Superman versus FF was maybe more like 2 issues because it was a graphic novel,
It was
right?
a double, it was like a double-sized issue, yeah.
Yeah, and then I would even say, although you and I don't remember this series very well, it's one of the first things we ever ranked, but the Werewolf by Night one-shot from 2023 by Derek Landry and Fran Galen, I remember that being a less mixed in execution than this, and also, like Superman versus FF, it has the virtues of concentration. So I would put, if Werewolf by Night from 2023 is 19, I would think we should put Avengers AI at 20, which would put it above all three Gotham Knights runs.
Okay, yeah. So, any way you can remind me somewhat about what the Devin Grayson run was on Gotham Knights for listeners?
That's the opening Gotham Knights runs. It had a lot of stuff about family, right? About Ra's al Ghul trying to bring in Dick Grayson's
Oh,
uncle.
the uncle, yeah. The gypsies. Yes, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
there was a weird story about Barbara Gordon and Jim Gordon that I don't know.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah. Bob, I agree with you. We're going to put this as the new number 20.
Yeah. Although it should be said that there are some high moments.
There are. I just, when I see Devin Grayson's name, I'm like, that's actually a pretty. I mean, he's done some good. There's been some good. There's been some good Devin Grayson stuff. So, I mean, I'm like, but at the same time, I don't think that Gotham Knights is it. So,
Yeah, then there's good moments in her run on Gotham Knights.
Right.
I think some of the stuff with Batgirl is pretty good. Although I think you didn't like the Batgirl stuff.
I did not.
much.
I hated the Batgirl
Yeah.
stuff. Sorry.
Yeah. But the Hugo Strange plot is, I think, pretty strong. But that said, I do think this is better than that.
And
So
much, it's definitely much better than Scott Beatty and AJ Lieberman's runs on Gotham Knights. So I have no
for
issue
sure,
there.
for
So
sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely the new number 20.
Matt remembers his trauma of the Beatty and the Lieberman runs.
Well, I own the single issues. That's why. And they were expensive too. Gotham Knights cost more than the other books. That's what's so weird. They were like,
Because they were bigger and they had the backups.
and they had different, like their covers were. That's when they shipped. For some reason that series moved to like the thicker covers, and that was another.
It had
Brian.
Brian, because they had Brian Boland at least initially doing the covers.
Correct.
He was a huge get as an artist. Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. Well, Matt, sorry I inflicted this rather mid comic on you, but I think we got some good discussion out of it. And listeners, thanks for joining us for our coverage of AI, Avengers AI, that is. We'll be back on with that Hickman run. Keep following us at Uncanny Treks, and have a good night, everyone.
Thanks for listening.